Assalamualaikum, and we meet again. Please bear with me. I promise it be short, concise, and precise. Um, Thank you very much for the organizer for giving me this special address on Wakaf. Why Wakaf? Because we want to sustain. And why not endowment? Endowment already settled. But Wakaf, there are a lot of issues in hands. So we need to see how we can work together so that we become sustained in Jama'ah, not only one person to sustain, but we sustain together. Right. So we have, as I said in my earlier speech this morning, another alternative for generation of income at private universities, including the philanthropies. So we have endowment, we have wakaf, and we have other gift donations and charities. Okay. But we are no longer talking about wakaf in the sense that wakaf for mosques, wakaf for schools, wakaf for grave. There's huge transformational driven on the wakaf development nowadays, because previously we talked only on immovable asset, but now we're talking about cash wakaf tunai. And this cash wakaf already been supported by the Central Bank of Malaysia and also the Security Commission. And when we talk about wakaf, bear in mind that we have 13 states in Malaysia. We have religious council respectively. That does not mean that we cannot come with a coherent governance. By virtue of the state religious council, it is huge blessing in the sense that there are the main custody of the wakaf, including the cash wakaf. So another point which matters is because enhancing university income generation through wakaf is already gazetted as the blueprint for the Malaysian higher education. As I said earlier, this has been the blueprint for the last since 2015, and to be continued for the 10 years. It should be ended next 2 years, but we will see whether we are good at generating the proceeds coming from the wakaf principle. And based on the policy driven by the government itself, these are the potential sources for income for universities other than students' tuition fee, especially for private wings, for private universities. Number one, we have academic and research, as you all know. Number two, asset monetization, retailing and services. Number three, financial management activities and investment. Number four, corporate alliances for business ventures, then endowment, then wakaf, then fundraising. Because these are, among others, for us to generate income other than tuition fees. Because nowadays, if I can remember, there's one book written by top management in Mohi on the private institution as the third sector for industries. So we are very much relevant, but we must make sure that we sustain, because we cannot rely on and depend on the government in order to get whatever fund or grant that we wanted, but we want to sustain in the more driven and structured manner, which is called philanthropy, and this has been gazetted as the blueprint by the Malaysian higher education. And again, in the blue purple book by the Ministry of Higher Education, we see how the third stream of income, including wakaf, has been identified as the third stream of income for universities, including this meant for public universities. But of course, there's no harm for us, and we must do, whether we want to do or not, the question now. Because a lot of universities in Europe, because I'm also one of the member for European Religion of Academy. They have sustained for the last 30 years using the endowment and charitable trust fund. So why not? We have to start by today. If we have not started anything yet, tidak ada masalah, nothing impossible. So I think because we will have support from the government itself, and the religious council authority also will support us. And recently, I myself has been appointed by the Sultan of Selangor to lead on the rules of Wakaf for federal territory. So we make sure that inside that piece of legislation, there's also room for Bank Negara, the Central Bank, the Security Commission, and other authorities, including the EPF, the trustees, will have similar important role to play. Then these are part and parcel of adopting various strategies to monetize Wakaf assets, including, you see here, maybe for the last 20 years, we understood that we just have to adhere to the attributes, to the essence of the Wakaf based on immovable asset. But now, since the ulama, the scholars have come out with the ijtihad, the process to allow us to have a cash Wakaf, so we have various of strategies to monetize the capital. I mean, the principle of Wakaf, where in the end of the day, we can benefit the accommodation, the tuition fee, the food, the cafe, whatever we want to do to students based on the proceeds deriving from the Wakaf principle. Yeah, these are among others. Okay. Next is on implementing various modes of Wakaf funding. Concentrate on the circles over there. Among others, there are 12 forms of cash Wakaf. Okay. We have shares. We have insurance, we have direct cash Wakaf, and we have mobile cash Wakaf, corporate cash Wakaf, deposit cash Wakaf, and Wakaf mutual fund and certificate cash Wakaf, advanced cash Wakaf. These are, among others, the method on the modes of Wakaf financing. And this has been endorsed and given leeway by the Central Bank of Malaysia, because I'm also one of the board of directors of Islamic Bank. So we go for this, especially for Islamic Bank in Malaysia, the only bank possess Sadaqah House. Yeah. So this Sadaqah House is initiated by one scholar for Bank Islam to generate income so that we give loan to the public without charging any additional. So we are going to expand the Qard Hasan, the benevolent loan to the public. This is what we want, because initially I've spoken about how can we ensure ourselves to benefit the community. And in the spirit of academic, how can we ensure in the end of the day we are going to provide the free education for everyone. Even our salary can be generated from the huge fund of endowment and Wakaf, and we get from the principles. So this is something that must be penetrated by everyone. And this is role of university leaders, yeah. And number 4, especially, encouraging unrestricted bequests to be added to endowment. And not to be so extreme, not to brag myself, I am also sitting in the board of directors of the main premier trustee of Malaysia, the Malaysia Amanah Raya. We have about 60 to 70 billions unclaimed fund. So this is because of the weak governance to look at the waris, the people who are entitled to receive the interstate. Yeah, the disposition of the property must be strictly adhered to, must be governed well, and maybe in future Amanah Raya would like to introduce another scheme of giving wasiat, faraid, wills, and also hibah. So hibah doesn't mean that you want to get away from faraid or wasiat, but it is something to be given during lifetime. And it is allowed in Islam, especially it doesn't go beyond 1/3 of your property. And for those who have not having children, only one children of girl, these are part and parcel of the most flexible disposition of property for the future of your descendants. And again, by virtue of Malaysia Budget 2020, we see there's deduction and assumption of tax for those who have given or will be giving wakaf from the company or also from individuals. This is a great achievement for Malaysia because previously we only have Section 44 Clause 7 under under tax law that only allow coming from the philanthropy of the yayasan, the foundation. But now deduction can be obtained by those who are willing to give the wakaf based on the aggregate income of the company after the annual audit. Okay, and just now I talk only in the capacity of Malaysia, but talking from the global perspective, many, including this is on the Times of India in 2018. They talk about committed to safety of wakaf assets. Okay, and then we have the Washington Times, also in February 2018, also talking about why is wakaf not in discussion. I just go to the headline to show the importance of this philanthropy. And also, there is one symposium on the wakaf in Paris, 2017, talking about wakaf. Yeah, in Paris, talking about wakaf, how this wakaf can benefit the whole society. And again, in Harvard Law School, there is one particular designated specifically focused on the Islamic muamalat and Islamic transaction, where it is one of the topic to discuss on wakaf, and this is on comparing wakaf and also comparing the landed trust. In Malaysia, we have torrent system, but in US, we have the different system, but they want to see whether there's a way for harmonizing the wakaf and the land system in US. And also, how philanthropy is changing in Europe. Yeah, it's a book, and they talk about, in the literatures, talking about the legal institution of wakaf under Islam. So people is referring to the wakaf literatures to show the beauty and the practical generating income to the universities especially. And also the Cambridge University Press, Amazon publication, we can search here, also talk about China and Islam, and they pin down to the topic of philanthropy of wakaf. So, and also in Dubai 2016, even though it's quite far a few years back, but they want to see whether the wakaf in the pre-modern times, including Japan, China, and Syria. So the name down there are the person who presented on the topic, on the possibility of doing the wakaf fund in this context of three big land. Yeah. So, and also on the UNDP program, again, Indonesia working with Badan Wakaf as part and parcel of the United Nations program. Okay, and this is example on the ecosystem of higher learning education. If we want to initiate on wakaf, same thing, whether we want to provide in the end of the day a free education for our students regardless of the background, and also when students, especially based on my university experience, pending the approval for PTPTN, they need 3 months, so maybe we can provide some assistance using the proceeds of the endowment and wakaf to help the student for the 3 months. Yeah, and we may provide free foundation, free accommodation, or subsidized accommodation, and also scholarships, so on and so forth. Okay, and this is ongoing process where I'm one of the committee members, to look at whether there's a possibility to have the, we call it Wakaf Commission. Why? Because at the federal level, we have Foundation for Wakaf Malaysia, Yayasan Wakaf Malaysia, where the members comprise of all council, religious council, Yang di-Pertua, I mean the president, I mean the head of each respective Yang di-Pertua for Majlis Agama. And I'm also sit as board of trustee. But do we have, in order to harmonize the governance, in order to have a more structural monitoring and assessment by the Security Commission as well as the Central Bank, should we consider to have the Wakaf Commission? Because Section 8 in particular, talking about each religious council have sole trustee for the Wakaf asset. But in that particular legislation, nowhere stated about the meaning of wakaf, cash wakaf. So there's something to fill the gap. So whether another authority like Wakaf Commission, because wakaf is something we give without consideration. Yeah, normally we get something with consideration. We buy something, we pay, and we get that price. We get that subject matter. But giving the gift, giving the wakaf endowment, we don't expect to have consideration. So this is, we call that in Islam, we call this tabarruat. Yeah, in Arabic, maybe from Arab can assist me in pronunciation. But this is non-consideration based muamalat. And because huge land for wakaf in Malaysia, and the best example for wakaf is in Penang. Yeah, started 30 years back, and we have also, if you go to KL, the central KL, you see the tower of Bank Islam. That tower of Bank Islam is established and developed on the wakaf land, and you know that's the most prosperous land in KL. So in terms of governance, of course, the first one is the objective. Yeah, the objective of what we want to do. We call in Islam is maqasid. Don't worry about that, because wakaf different from zakat, alms giving, different. Because wakaf, you can receive, you can give regardless whether you are Muslim or not. So all people can receive the proceeds of wakaf regardless whether you are believer or not. Unlike zakat, even though zakat, there's ulama, the one particular mazhab also state that we can give zakat to non-Muslim, but that's different issues. But for wakaf, everybody is entitled. So that's the beauty of wakaf. Yeah, and in Malaysia, wakaf is actually the best thing to start with. It is not easy, but it is practical and workable. Yeah. So among others, of course, we cannot ignore the State Religious Council, and we must work together with the help of Ministry of Higher Education and also Ministry of Education, and also the Yayasan Wakaf Malaysia, and also the Bank Negara. We have ISRA, Research Center under Bank Negara. We have INCF, the Education Wing, and we also have a value-based program under Central Bank. And we also have a Sharia audit nowadays, which to me support the ecosystem of this value-based society. I think this is my last slide, I hope. Yeah. Thank you so much.